Are you ready for some football? It's a Monday night party. We're here, Monday night. I know you're probably shocked. There's no need to be shocked. It's because the Bolts play tonight, and we are here for the newest episode of Nuts and Bolts. I'm joined with my co-host, Tony Tucker, fellow Chargers fan. As you can tell, I'm very hyped up. Just finished a workout. Calm down a little bit now. But I'm still hyped. Tony, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I too had a pretty intense workout today. Thinking a lot about this game, a lot about last week. Got some thoughts on last week that I will say, since it was a week ago, we'll translate it on how they relate to this evening. But feeling really good. And I just want to say that anybody who missed it, go find the Black Adam promo with Khalil Mack. They just played it. And it is, Mike, you have to watch for the game. It is fucking fire. Beyond fire, my friend. It's Khalil Mack doing a little acting. He doesn't really have to act. He's basically in a cold tub and he's like feeling the electricity going through his body. But it's a must find if somebody got it up on the internet. They just played it headed into the last break of the Monday Night Football coverage. And then lastly, ESPN, don't be lazy. Don't go around finding Broncos fans outside of SoFi to push your narrative for what's happening on Monday night. There are a lot of Charger fans down there tailgating. You could easily go out and find them and record them. Get it together, ESPN. The game's in SoFi. They're making it look like there's no Chargers fans down there. And I have a ton of proof on my phone that says otherwise to that. Athir, how you doing, brother? Big Monday night game. I know you get this one, and I know you called in sick. You told your manager. Here doesn't work when the Bolts are on Monday Night Football.
And the manager supports it for Athir. Everyone else tuning in, we appreciate you guys. I think I found it, Tony. Oh, yeah, this is it. All right. I'll play for everybody.
Wake up.
Oh.
The world needs you.
Oh, yeah, genius, Tony.
But there is still time to change the future.
Right here. This is where it's like, I want this Khalil Mack Black Adam jersey where it glows in the dark.
Your power will not be denied. Time is running out. And your moment is now.
And chokeslam Russell Wilson.
Boom. Nailed it.
That was perfect. I'm sure we just got...
That has to get you hyped up right there. Has to. Rally Chris, what's going on?
Got 5 copyright strikes, but we'll take them so that way we can share that. That is pretty sick. I'm pretty hyped even more. So I think tonight is a good night for Khalil Mack to have a big game. But speaking of Khalil Mack was quiet against the Browns because all the Browns did was run the damn football. Let's talk about that game briefly real quick, Tony, before we move on. We'll say hi to people as they join in the chat. Look at that. Day off for tonight. He knows. You called it, Tony. But any thoughts still lasting a week later from that Browns game?
I assume he went in there in the third person. He was like, listen, Athir does not work. And then he's like, are you speaking in the third person? All right, you can have the night off.
Oh, he started to spark up.
The Browns-Chargers game is, to me, like, extremely aggravating, right? Because you see they get off to the slow start, and then you see the power and the ability and the dominance of the team to come back to play great in the second half. Like, could we just see a game where it gets put together for 4 quarters just to see what this team looks like, where it's functioning, defense and special teams and offense are all complementing each other, that they don't fall asleep at separate times? I told you I've never been more pissed off after a win, and I will just say this. Last week, I take a little bit of responsibility. I came on here and I said, you know what? We give Staley a hard time, and I want to say nice things about him last Friday. And we started off the show where I said nice things. I'm not going to say negative things. I'm not putting that out there. I'm simply just saying I'm out. I can't defend Brandon Staley to my friends and family anymore. Like, there's just nothing I can say. I don't care what any analytical thing you point at me at. Last Sunday, I just was like, I'm done. Okay, I hope that you do the best that you can, but I don't have belief that you will make good decisions when the time comes. And it worries me. And I go into every game wondering what's going to happen tonight. What are we going to do tonight on our own 26-yard line?
Yeah, and it seems like you'd want to keep it simple with this team just because of how much talent is on it. And football is a game that is more predicated on execution than anything else. It takes all 11 players on the field to do their job and execute for any individual play to find success. That's including Trey Pipkins and Justin Herbert. I mean, and the talent, whatever the line is and the gap is, talent between those two. You talk about your worst player on the field and your best player on the field. It doesn't matter. They all have to execute to find success. And we just have so many players that individually will probably execute on every freaking play. But somehow it still seems complicated to get out of these games against teams that don't necessarily have that same caliber of roster on the other side. And that's what's frustrating me most is like the Houston game, for example. We end up winning by 10, and that was a good bounce back game and everything. The Texans had a chance to win that game, and they had no business having a chance to win that game. You saw from the jump how much better the Chargers were. And you talk about a 4-quarter game. When we put that 4-quarter game together, hopefully in about an hour, we're going to kick someone's ass. That's what's going to happen. We're going to smoke.
Doors are getting blown off. If they put it together for 4 quarters, it will be like 45-7 in that kind of a game.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that's tonight with the holes that the Broncos have at O-line. That's a huge thing for us right now because, obviously the rush defense is probably the weakest point of the team, and the pass attack with the secondary and the pass rush, even down Bosa, might be one of the greatest strengths of the team. So I'm hoping that it's tonight, and we just give Russell Wilson and that offensive line fits all night. They can't block a soul in the run game, can't block a soul in the pass game, and we just get after them. I've been hating the talk lately. I know it's granted, and that was an ugly finish, and this Nathaniel Hackett, Brendan Staley thing is being talked about more than anything else ahead of this game. I do feel a little disrespected out of how bad the Broncos have played and the predictions and the talk around this game that is going to be a 4-point game. The Broncos are going to cover this thing.
So there's a lot of things that are bothering me about the coverage that's going on. And part of the reason that I want an absolute blowout, right? Like the first play of the game just has to be punch him in the mouth, have them looking around like, oh shit, what do we do? It's happening again. We're miscommunicating on offense and we're not sure what we're calling. They're being forced in the timeouts because of confusion, that they are just out there looking like we're overmatched, and people start panicking. Put fear in them from Jump Street because they're already kind of sensitive. It's just like in a fight. Like if you're going out there, like just go out there and remind the person the last time they were on the field, they got rocked. And the time before they got rocked. And that you're going to get smashed from the beginning of this football game. And I do believe and hope that is what's going to happen tonight. But the other thing is, like, if they don't dominate tonight, the Chargers are going to get buried in coverage tomorrow. Like, they're not even going to talk about it. Oh, the Chargers won. But what we really need to talk about is how things aren't working out between Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett. You've been talking about that for 4 weeks. Could you talk about the other team at all? I get that nobody wants to talk about the Chargers. It doesn't move numbers for them nationally. But give me a break. Like, how many different ways can you spin it that the Broncos have been shitty this year? And maybe tonight's the night they get it together. I hope that it's not, but maybe it is. But they just keep shoveling dirt on the grave. It's like, dude, they've been buried for 2 weeks. You've been burying them for the entire season. Why this week do you continue to not give any highlights or coverage or anything to the other side of the game? It's driving me insane.
Yeah, and if they were saying about the Keenan tweet, that's getting blown out of proportion. Yeah, Keenan is voicing his opinion on Twitter. That's his thoughts. But I don't think it's like a, hey, I want our head coach fired type of tweet. It's just more of like, this is a crazy call. I'm not on the field to understand the logic behind it.
Yeah.
Type situation.
In that moment, he was a fan just like us. Yeah. Like, he was not there. He could not be with his team to help them. Like, we all, like, as fans, we all have that, like, electricity, that adrenaline that runs through us, that if we had the ability, would give them as many plays as we possibly could. Now, here's the thing. We are either old, we suck, we're unathletic, whatever the many reasons are that we never reached that level, we couldn't give it to them. Keenan is like, I could have been the person that if we are going to do something that is completely uncalled for, at least I should have been the guy that was getting that rock. And he wasn't, and he reacted like a fan. And I don't blame him for it. He spoke for me. If I could sign off and just be like, hey, this tweet comes from me and whatever other Bolt fan wanted to say, like, I endorse this message. I, too, was thinking out loud, what the fuck are we doing right now?
Yeah.
What is happening?
Yeah, and the way that game was going in the second half, it just felt that the defense was playing fine, and in a situation where they have no timeouts, Jacoby Brissett has to throw the ball. Like, they can go ahead and run the ball once maybe on that entire drive, and it would have to be at the edge of field goal range already as it is with time up. Just so much would have had to go wrong for them to get into field goal range and win that game. But the call that we put on the field gave them only one thing that needed to go right or wrong for us, for them to get into field goal range. And it happened.
They still blew it. I mean, they had all that time left, and you don't try and run the ball once when that's what you were getting? Like, you decide Jacoby Brissett's the answer? Stefanski, you should know better than anybody. That's not the answer. But thank you for doing that.
And we're going to move on to the Monday night game, guys. We know time is winding down. I just want to say one more thing, and I've been saying it all week because a lot of people have been coming at the Chargers for that bad call. We won the game because of the performance by the players. We knew what kind of game that was going to be. We saw what it was last year. Very similar team in the Browns this year as last year. Lean run first and hoping for big plays from Njoku and the outside wide receivers in spots that they need them. I just don't want to take away that performance from the players because when you look at what Eckler did, ASJ had a very good game. Alohi Gilman filled in nicely for Nas in a little bit of a surprise start. Some credit goes to some guys out there. I feel like SJD has been good all year. So moving on to this game, we still have a roster, Tony, that even down Keenan, down Slater, down Joey Bosa, feels like it's outmatching most of our opponents. And that excites me. And if the coaching and the decision-making gets it together, or we just start killing people, one of the two, or coaching and decision-making doesn't matter, we're still going to be on track for all the goals that we want to accomplish this season. And I hope it continues going that way, starting with this game. Let's see what Athir has to say. Let me ask this question. I've watched Watson play. He is good. We started down 14-0. Do you believe the Chargers come back with Watson on the field? Yeah, I do. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I do think that they always have a chance to come back because they have number 10. Like when you have that type of talent, you always have, it could be 17, it could be 24. As long as there's enough possessions left in the game, I believe that he is that kind of talent. It comes down to play calling and execution. Now, obviously, you need defense to continue to make stops. And I think that if they get rolling, if they get things headed in the right direction, if you allow the $18 million cornerback that you paid all that money for to play a little press coverage, feel free to push that guy back. Like, I would rather see him making mistakes, being aggressive, than making mistakes and playing 10 yards off the ball every play. Now, I don't know a ton about defensive back, but when Mike and I rewatch that, Mike knows more about the position than I do. There was a lot of plays where it was like, wait, why is he, what's the idea? What's the coverage? What's the thought? What's happening here?
Yeah. It just didn't seem like a good game plan to go against someone who needs space to find success in his game, Amari Cooper. You know what I mean? A veteran receiver, had a lot of injuries, but still just a lethal route runner when you give him separation. You start off with 10 yards separation to start the play. So, not a big fan of that. Yeah, I just want to have a week where we come away and none of the coaches are going to the podium and saying, I fucked up on this. It's just happened every week where people are taking blames for this, that, or another. And I don't care who's taking the blame. Let's start correcting it. Let's start really putting our heads together and how much experience we have in the coaching staff, even if we have to go to the assistant coaches, and let's make the right decisions because that game got ruined. The game got ruined. Alohi made a crazy play on a ball that was going for Amari Cooper in the back of the end zone, and they almost blew that. You want to move on to this game now?
Yeah.
Because we got a whole other challenge tonight, and we can look at this injury report first. Bad news, guys. I know that it says here Lindsley popped on the injury report late in the week due to an illness. Lindsley's been ruled out of this game as of about an hour ago. So we are going to be rocking with Will Clapp at center tonight, the backup center. Fortunately, he's an experienced center, comes from this offense, has worked with the same kind of run scheme in the past. So it's not like it's a huge loss. My biggest thing, and me and Tony talk about it a lot, is how vital Lindsley is to the Chargers' communication across the O-line during the game when it comes to picking up blitz protections, when it comes to tweaking those zone run blocking schemes and all that stuff, and where they're going to double team down and leave one-on-ones and all that stuff is Lindsley in the middle of the line calling all of it. So we'll see how much that affects us against a good Denver Broncos D-line, even without Randy Gregory. But the other injuries we got here, Trey Pipkins is going to play tonight. He's expected to play. He is suffering from a knee injury. He sprained his MCL, right, I believe. Was limited in practice all week, but he's expected to play. I put J.C. Jackson on here. He was not listed with an injury. He's a full participant in practice, but they have now cited officially that the injury and the scheme are the reasons for J.C.'s slow start. They kind of just been covering it up, making it seem like this surgery was nothing, which I didn't really like because I defended that. I continued to go, we're just waiting for a wound to heal. Clearly that is not the case. Keenan Allen's not going to play tonight, still dealing with a hamstring injury. Keenan Allen has said himself in an interview that he expects to play in Seattle. I'm not going to say hold your breath or anything. Let's just wait and see what happens for that. And Hopkins is back tonight, practicing full this last weekend, I think Friday, and they said that he felt good, back to normal pretty much, and is going to be our kicker for tonight. We don't have to go with a guy off the streets. Now let's look at the Broncos here, Tony, and this is key here. A lot of these guys with questionable tags are playing, but they're dealing with some injuries. But big ones. Both Stearns and Jewell are big parts of this defense. With Justin Simmons come back, Stearns is less of a big part of their defense, but definitely Jewell. That's their middle linebacker. That's their athletic linebacker too. Probably their guy they're going to throw at Austin Eckler if they had him. So that's interesting to see. He's ruled out officially. And then Jonathan Cooper, another linebacker, has a hamstring injury. One of their corners, he rotates out the slot. He goes outside. Amari Mathis with a knee injury. He's questionable for tonight. I think he's expected to play, though. Melvin Gordon dealing with neck and rib injury. He was questionable for tonight. He's expected to play. Eric Saubert was a thigh, which was questionable, but I don't think that's as big a deal because tight end Greg Dulcich out of UCLA making his debut. We watched a lot of tape on him during the draft, so we'll see his debut. It will be fun to watch. Guard Dalton Reisner, I believe his name is. He's one of their starting guards. He was questionable for tonight with a back injury. Billy Turner, questionable tonight for with a knee. They're already down their left tackle. Garrett Bowles, this is their right tackle. Billy Turner. Quinn Miners, I think, was listed as active for tonight's game, but he's been dealing with a soft tissue hamstring injury. Russell Wilson obviously had the shoulder operation earlier in the week. He's active, though. Justin Simmons activated off the IR. And then down here, Dulcich, I had a question mark. He's officially activated, and so is Michael Ojemudia, their slot corner, who was flashed a couple times in his career already in games against the Chargers in the past, but he is active for tonight as well, making his return to the lineup. So Broncos getting some guys back, losing some guys. Overall, it looks like they're more banged up than us somehow.
Well, you got to think about half. We got guys on IR though. You didn't lose Bosa, Slater, or Guyton on there. Which I would like to go on a rant about Robbie Anderson going for a 6th and a 7th round pick. Almost made me lose my mind.
Cardinals made that call immediately. We need to get him.
Did Telesco even check to see if he had any minutes left on his prepaid? Anything, Telesco? You kidding me? I look at these injury reports, and what I think of is who's going to stay healthiest in the trenches. Who's going to have to go to their reserves the most this night? You put together an offensive line, you walk through it. Which of these tackles are going to hold up the longest? Which of these guards? And which team's going to be able to get the early lead so that they have a better chance at running the football and the play action being more effective in this game, so that that would be the game plan anyways. But with this many injury concerns and question marks on both sides, I'm just really hoping the Chargers can get out to, a 7-10 point lead in the first half. So it's now you're really going to put the pressure on these offensive linemen to try and hold up for Russ in this situation. Because the same thing could be said on the other side, where it's if Pipkins goes down and I have to watch the swinging ponytail of Storm Norton on Monday Night Football, I'm going to be very, very disappointed about that.
just as excited as seeing the no-name left tackle after replacing Garrett Bowles to face Khalil Mack tonight, huh?
Honest, I didn't even look him up. I don't even know who it was.
I don't know his name either. I don't remember. I remember seeing it on the depth chart and being like, who the fuck is that?
I'm sure he's a great young man.
But who do you think is the best offensive lineman playing in tonight's game?
The
77?
I was thinking either Zion or Filer played better last week.
I think it's Zion, the rookie.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it would. I would go with Zion.
Two banged up O lines, and the Broncos O line wasn't the most elite O line to even start off with. That's going to be a key part of this game is the D lines versus the O lines. Fortunately, we don't have freaking Matt Ryan, so if our O line falls apart, we don't gotta worry about suffering a 12-9 game. At least knock on wood. Let's hope not. Let's get into our keys to victory. I think I already put his in there, Tony. You got any big ones? I think it's just keep doing what we're doing. Keep doing what's succeeding. Put Austin Eckler behind Zion Johnson, and that'll free up some passing lanes, hopefully, for Justin Herbert. We know that's a big matchup with Mike Williams versus Patrick Surtain. But what are you thinking here?
I think like maintaining the idea that we do need to blitz to get a little bit of pressure, right? Like we need to send a little bit more than normal. I think that's kind of my key is like, let's put as much pressure on Russ as we can to find cohesion within this offense, because you have the playmakers on the back end to get turnovers. I guess like that would be the one thing that I think is like, let's make Russ prove that this has all just like this nightmare is finally over for them. Like really force it. Like if you just go into prevents and you allow like, oh, we're just going to let Russ get confidence and just give him easy completions up and down the field. We're going to, the term I hate so much, the bend, don't break style, whatever that is nonsense. Like let's heat him up. Let's go after him and let's make him really find the timing in this offense that just hasn't been there, because he's missing a lot of wide open people. We saw KJ Hamler at the end of that game just smash his helmet in frustration, just being like, bro, I'm wide open. There's other people that are wide open.
Yeah.
He's not seeing them.
There was another play in overtime there where Judy was wide open up the sideline. Russ held the ball too long, threw it into double coverage, and missed the throw on top of it all. So, I mean, you're right. And Russell Wilson's struggles have been a big part of the Broncos' offensive struggle so far this year as a whole. And me and you have talked about it all week. Like, this will probably be the week that he gets it together because we're so unlucky with this kind of shit. Even if he does get it together, I like the Chargers' chances to send a lot at him because Derwin James can be freed up a little bit. I don't know if we're terrified of Greg Dulcich in his first game following being down for an injury for the first 4 weeks. At tight end, you know that JC's following Cortland Sutton around. You got Bryce Callahan on Judy in the slot. I wouldn't have said I love that matchup when Judy was younger and I had a better outlook on him, but it's starting to look like I like that matchup a lot more. Got a lot of ball hawks. ASJ just going to be floating around kind of on whichever receiver's available from the guard, KJ Hamler, whoever else they might throw at him. Like, I just like that we have a bunch of ball hawks, turnover creating players like Derwin James, ASJ, Khalil Mack, kind of free to pick which mismatch they want to choose on any given play. And it seems like we're going to have a bunch of situations where our defensive player is a lot more established, a lot more talented, has a lot more juice than the offensive player that they're going against in coverage. I'm hoping that we have a good game on Cortland Sutton this week. We've struggled with number one wide receivers this year. I will say that. The secondary has been great, but we've struggled against those number one wide receivers. I think a big key in this game is getting pressure on Russell Wilson, but for us on offense, finishing off these drives with some touchdowns. This is a good defense. This is a stingy defense. We're probably not going to get as many red zone opportunities as against Cleveland to blow anyways. So when we do get down there, we got to score. If our defense gets us good field position, we got to go score. We got to keep the pressure on the entire game. There was way too many possessions against Cleveland where we're inside the 20, and we were settling for 3 with Taylor off the streets. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So I think that's the key to the game is finishing those drives strong, even if it does come in the form of getting the ball on a screen to Austin Eckler, whatever it takes to get in the end zone. Donald Parham jump ball. I don't care what it is. You know, the linebackers, second-string linebackers are in the game. And here's what Athir had to say. He said his keys to the game Offense, take what the defense gives you. I like that because they do have some playmakers. Justin Simmons making his return tonight. Patrick Surtain's in the secondary. Both those guys can take the ball away and make great plays on the football. So take what the defense is giving you, is what Thier's saying. Don't help Denver's struggling offense. Put 6 in the box. I would like to put more than 6. Force Russ to throw. Be physical with the wide receivers. I guess 6 is K9, Drew, and the front 4. So 6 makes sense. But 6 in the box is not a high number.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how much they can get their running game going. Yeah. Because I think that needs to be a focal point for them. They flash Staley's defensive stats over here, and they're like last place in everything. Plays over 20 yards, average carry for rushing. Like it's all bad. He's a defensive head coach. I came to an epiphany. Well, I'll share that off the air with you. I think that this game is going to be less fireworks than we maybe would have thought in the preseason, but it needs to be the kind of game where it's like good functional football all the way. Like, I just want to have a week where we don't talk about what the F were we doing, what were we thinking, what happened. Like, it would just be nice to have that one week where we could reconvene here next Friday and, and have that moment where it was like all these beautiful things happened.
Yeah, we're going to the game next week, so we'd love to go into it with an all positive mindset. At 4-2, 2 games ahead of the third place team in the Broncos. That's another big part of this game is the standings in the AFC West. There's a huge difference between 4-2 tied for first and 3-3 tied for third and second. And in third really because of the tiebreaker if we lose to Denver tonight, which we're not.
Losing a second division game.
You don't want it. So and the Broncos are facing the same fate as us. So they have the same thing to play for that we do as far as the division standings go.
Let's get some score predictions out here.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do some bold predictions. Drop them in the chat for a player, performance, a play, how you guys see it going. Do the bold prediction in the chat, y'all, and your score predictions. Tony, you got a bold prediction off the top of your head? I have one.
I do. You can go first if you want.
All right, here we go. 5 different Chargers get sacks tonight. I think the world gets alerted to this D-line. I think the world learns about Chris Rumph and his improvements. I think especially the world learns about Sebastian Joseph Day and what an improvement he is to the middle of the D-line. No one talks about him as an addition or a key addition for the Chargers this offseason, but I've been such a big fan of what he's done this year. There were a couple of times there where we got gashed in the run game against Cleveland up the middle, but for the most part, they've had to get those big runs running away from the big guy, Sebastian Joseph Day, this year. I think that he has a couple of sacks on Russell Wilson because when Russell Wilson feels pressure around the edges, he does like to step up into the pocket and try and go underneath the edge rusher. It don't work when there is no middle of the pocket.
Yeah, no,
Chargers, you get 5 sacks, and all 5 of them come from a different name. I'm thinking a blitz from a linebacker or Derwin. I'm thinking Khalil gets one, SJD gets one, Rumph gets one, someone else gets one. I think we get 5 from 5 different Chargers. Maybe Tillery gets himself one.
Callahan, blindside, strip sack, fumble in the game. I love it. I like it. My bold take, give me DC. I don't want a Diet Coke, and I don't want the nation's capital. I want DeAndre Carter for 100 yards receiving and a touchdown and 100 yards in the return game, punt and kick return, giving us decent field position on the multiple times I think that they're going to punt and hopefully some kick returns. Wouldn't it be nice if it didn't look like every time DC was getting blown up on a kick return? It's like, where's the blocking at? Nobody. There's always somebody who comes flying through like a missile. And before he can even think about making a cut, he's getting destroyed. I think that changes tonight. I think there's an opportunity for him to have, we'll go 200 all-purpose yards with the punt return and the receiving game. Big night for DeAndre Carter. Let's try and push one down the field to the little guy. He's 5'8". He's the same height as me. He just out there looks petite in stature to these other guys. Huge heart.
I think we are going to get like a sneaky big game where it's just like short receptions, a bunch of them from somebody, either G7, Carter, Maybe JP5 out wide. I put it in on Everett on my prize picks, Tony, to go over his fantasy points. I think it was 7 fantasy points. I feel like that's a lock. Surtain is gonna be on Williams, and Mike is still gonna get his. I think it's just gonna be less quantity directed towards Mike and towards the other weapons, probably towards Eckler a lot too. But here's a Thieves. Flashback 2019 Chiefs versus Ravens. Top passing defense. Mahomes throws for 404 touchdowns. Herbert will do the same tonight. He's calling for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, Simmons is back, but he is coming off an injury, so maybe a little bit of rust.
I want that to be right so badly. Because tomorrow I think that you would have to be completely abusing your job if you don't talk about a 4-touchdown, 400-yard performance by Justin Herbert. Like if that doesn't come up on the rundown for some of these shows that I'll throw up after a Chargers game just to see what they're saying. What's the flavor? What are they talking about? I need to see that.
Yeah, I'll be tuned in.
Wait, what is Carlos saying?
Manny is saying, what are the odds Staley makes a dumb decision? Let's just hope we're not in a close game. And then Carlos said also the raid turd signed Tavon Campbell. Have fun with that. And realistic prediction, Melvin Gordon fumbles. I mean, he's going to get some carries. He's going to get some touches. I think if he fumbles once, then all of a sudden Mike Boone's getting more touches than Melvin.
I honestly don't know how much he's going to play tonight. It's going to be more. I think it's going to be more Mike Boone. He looked better in the last game, and I just think he runs more physically. I think that Nathaniel Hackett's going to try and take advantage of the run defense and see if they've gotten better or not. Mike Boone season.
All right, Tony, what's the scoreboard going to look like at the end of the game?
My score prediction is Chargers 27, Broncos 18. I want it to be a higher number, and I feel like 27 is pretty good. The Broncos defense has played really good. Like, I'd be happy if you told me that they were going to score 3 touchdowns and kick 2 field goals. I think that that's good offensive output. I just need to see the defense come through and shut this team down like other less adequate, high-powered defenses have come through. Like, when I say 18, I really want the number to be more like 6. Yeah. I want a big-time blowout win. But I settled on 27-18.
I was thinking similar to you because if the Raiders can put up 30 points on their defense, then I think the Chargers can. I'm getting blinded by the sun here.
Yeah.
I'm going with, it's the light shining on me right before this game before my Mike Williams interview. But I think I'm gonna go with a similar score prediction, but I'm gonna go 31-17. I'll go with that. I think that maybe we surpass that 30 with a field goal somewhere in the game. I don't know, but I'm hoping that this game is comfortably won. And I'm preparing for that Mike Williams interview, and I'm having a great time doing it, thinking of all of these Broncos clowning questions I can.
Yeah. Thank you, Carlos, Athir.
Yes.
Who else was in here? Ricky, Chris, Rally, somebody, all of you. Carlos said something up there. I forgot what it was, but Carlos made me laugh again in the comments. I just forgot to say anything about it. I really was. I was pissed, Mike, when I saw that Robbie Anderson got traded for a 6th and a 7th.
Yeah,
I was hot.
We need some speed, and we could talk about it when we get closer to the deadline, and there's some more players maybe putting on the block of who the Chargers should go after in another episode. I think some speed at wide receiver could help, some depth in the O-line could help, and maybe some depth in the secondary if we really want to go and make some moves, since JT Woods isn't really getting utilized too much.
Yeah. I will leave everybody with this. I was very happy and proud of my son. He came in the other room and he's like, I just forget the name of the video game he was playing, World War, Warcraft, I don't know. But he's like, I just killed a player with the username Raiders for Life.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you did.
Some teabag on his dead body in the game.
Raiders in the afterlife now, my friend. Time to hit the reset button because you just got smoked by a Chargers fan.
Now we're coming for them horses tonight. Good luck to the Chargers, Tony. Hope you have a good time watching the game. We'll talk after, of course, I'm pretty sure. See you guys next week here on Nuts and Bolts Friday night, 5 p.m. ahead of the Seattle Seahawks game. Let's go. Bolt up.
Bolt up.
Yeah. Let's ride.